boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be looking at prisons, at women in prisons, and how it is now they struggle, and people that are not in prison and they don't struggle, and people are getting threatened in prison from out of prison, and men and women, and people are saying they're going to do things to their family, which is horrible, I know. But let's see what Channel 4 says, what life's like in prison and out of it, and what goodness can you get out of not going back into prison.
When he first went into jail, he had a weed addiction. I thought him going into jail would help that. And it was a relief. He's going to get some help, going to get off the weed. But no, it was putting the kid in a sweet shop, going to jail.
This is the story of one mum, we're calling her Julie, who became ensnared in a sophisticated, well-organised drug economy operating inside prison, with terrifying and costly consequences for families outside.
Drink some of this water,
It
I think.
begins when her son was sent to Wandsworth Prison in South London on a short sentence, the very first time he'd been to jail.
After about a week of getting there, he started ringing out saying he owed money. On the first
just need to open my bottle of water, then we film a bit more of this. Give me a second. I can only do two things at once, opening the bottle of pop, as you can see. Got a bit of a dry throat.
And give you a little bit of spice. So it'll just get you over the first night, your nerves and everything like that. And that's on the induction wing. And then obviously by the time you go on to the main wing, that debt follows you.
She's literally within a week of going
on the induction wing.
He's not only tried a new drug,
yeah,
he now owes money.
Yeah.
And he quickly owes a lot of money, £200-300 a week. Money, of course, as a prisoner, he doesn't have. So the dealers inside jail are soon contacting her outside, demanding she pay up or her son will get hurt. As her son's debts rise, the calls and texts to her become more threatening.
Owe money big time. It needs paying before Friday, or he gets opened up. We know where you live from before someone paying. In here, we boss. You've till Monday to pay, or we be round.
We paid it because we didn't want him to get hurt. Then the debts got bigger and bigger. So I was actually on holiday one day when I got a text to say that he's going to get hot sugared if I don't pay £200 or £300 by the morning. Hot sugaring is you boil water and you put sugar in it and they throw it at you and then obviously it burns you. They don't care, blatantly sending their names and bank details. And obviously I'm laying there in the hotel thinking, oh, do I pay, shouldn't I pay? And I rang up onto prison, spoke to the officer, and he told me that my son has to pay his debts.
That was his advice?
That was his advice.
Julie is stunned not only with the officer's advice, but that he seems entirely unsurprised by the fact her son is racking up debt for illegal drugs in jail. She makes repeated attempts to alert the prison authorities, sending a raft of increasingly desperate emails across months and months, phoning them again and again for help. We've seen the emails, Julie explicitly telling them how dealers are targeting her son and then demanding money from her. In this one, she lists the names and bank details of 14 of the many accounts she's paid money into, and yet she says still nothing was done to stop the spiralling debt or the intimidation. She emails Wandsworth Prison. Just wondering why my son is asking for hundreds of pounds. Funny how he's meant to be in jail and not on holiday. She asks again, can you please find out why my son needs £3 grand? £3 grand. She constantly writes telling the authorities the demands for money and the threats continue to come from inside the prison. But in one email they tell her to inform the police. We in the prison cannot assist with outside prison issues. She tells the police about the threats from the prison dealers, and they are clearly convinced the risk is real.
We had our house flagged, panic buttons put in, everything at my house. I even had this app on my phone that if I ever felt threatened, I could just press it and the police would hear what was going on without me ringing them. That's how serious it got.
At one point, her son was moved to a drug-free wing, but he told Julie there were more drugs there than anywhere else. She says at best staff were turning a blind eye. At worst, some were actively involved. The evidence arriving at the door soon after her son was released from jail.
He had the mobile number of the drug dealer in Wandsworth, and he rang him and said, "Oh, do you know anyone on the outside that could hook me up?" My son rang me that night and said, "Oh, Mum, guess what?" I went, "What?" He went, "The officer come to my door with the crack." I said, "So what, do you rang somebody in Wandsworth prison and they sent a prison officer to your door with drugs?" And he went, "Yeah." And then I went round there a few days later and he turned up again. And I recognised him, and all of a sudden I found out he left.
The prison service said it didn't recognise the allegations about staff conduct and won't hesitate to take the toughest action against those who break the rules. The Prison Officers Association said Wandsworth has robust security at the gate in regular use, and that drugs get into prisons in a variety of ways, including drone deliveries, throwovers and external visitors.
Powered by 100%
Coffee advert again.
grid-supplied electricity.
Wandsworth is a Victorian prison, one of the biggest in the country, and is facing a crisis on a number of fronts. Appalling conditions, overcrowding, high levels of staff turnover and violence. Kay has been in and out of jail his whole life, for offences including drugs and theft. His last spell was at Wandsworth on a driving offence. He says the market for all contraband is extremely lucrative, so it's no surprise some prison staff become involved in bringing in and supplying drugs.
Their salary's shit. I wouldn't go and work in a prison for whatever it is a year. They make more money in the 6 months they're there, probably earn 3 times that in the 6 months they're there before they leave, just by bringing in tobacco and drugs. Prices are through the roof, like £500 for a gram of tobacco or whatever it is out there. They're only about 15 quid out here. You're paying 500 quid in there. It's stupid.
Phones are a critical commodity in the illegal prison economy, smuggled in huge numbers.
As for buying mobile phones, smartphones, you're talking about £1,000 plus up to £1,500. A little Zanko like that, which is the size of your thumb, you can buy them at a shop out here for £20. They go for £300 to £500.
Callum, not his real name, has just finished a sentence at Wandsworth for assault. He accepts drugs and other contraband get into the prison in many ways, but he's in no doubt some staff are very involved.
So when the screws are passing the drugs in, most of the night times, they don't get searched, they come straight through, they pass the opening door, so all it's doing is making violence. It's getting people in debt. And they can't afford to get out of it, and then the mums get the phone calls, and it stresses out their family, so it's just a big ripple effect. It's just everything.
But while former prisoners may see organised drug networks as part of normal life in prison, the MP Fleur Anderson admits she was naive about it all, until Julie, one of her constituents, came to her for help to get her son out of Wandsworth and into a different jail.
So my immediate concern was that for her son, so how could we get him out of that situation? So I thought, great, we've got an achievement, we've got him moved to a different prison, and that he would be away from the people who were extorting him for drugs. And within 2 days, Julie was being given bills of £370, which she could then see would be escalating, and nothing had changed from the move, which points really to it not being just about Wandsworth Prison. This is about all of our prison service.
She says she raised her concerns directly with the governor at Wandsworth and others across the prison estate, but wasn't reassured by the response.
Did you get a sense there was a level of defeatism, or was there confidence that this could be sorted out?
So there's a bit of shrugging shoulders and saying, what can we do? Which I think comes from the top as well. It comes from the government. There needs to be a real change. Otherwise, this is just going to carry on. It feels like it was a ticking time bomb quite a long time ago, that actually, when you see the impact it's got on not just the prisoners, but on people like Julie in my constituency, just people, mums, grandmas, people being extorted, then this is not actually cutting crime, it's breeding it.
There is no doubt this is an issue beyond one prison. Just last month, the prison's ombudsman linked 4 deaths at HMP Park in Wales directly to the drug spice, making an urgent public appeal to prisoners to destroy all supplies. A member of staff is currently being investigated for allegedly smuggling drugs into the jail. The Ministry of Justice told us there is a zero-tolerance approach to drugs, and it's invested £100 million in tough new security measures to stop more getting in.
Since my son's first prison sentence, about 50,000 into various bank accounts, which obviously I've given you all the details for.
I mean, how do you even manage that?
It was my parents' savings.
How is he now?
He's an addict now. He's an addict now. He's always going to be an addict. The system made him an addict. That's why I look at it, and no one's taking accountability for that.
Tackling the highly organised drug economy in jail is an enormous challenge. A captive, often vulnerable market creating endless demand. And with so much money to be made, stemming the supply is just not working. Well, with me here is Mark Fairhurst, who chairs the Prison Officers Association. And joining us from Gloucester is John Podmore, who served as a policeman and as an inspector of prisons. Can I come to you first, John Podmore? What do you make of that? The sheer level of organisation, it would seem, the fact that even families outside are being threatened with violence to pay these debts.
Well, it's no surprise to me. I've been writing about this for years. Serious organised crime is seriously well organised in prison. And, you know, here we see effectively a mafia-style protection racket where families have been suffering. But we've known the drug problem in prisons for a long time. It's worse now than it ever has, but we've never, until now, properly asked the question, who pays? And if you extrapolate up from this particular case, I would say that the illicit drug economy in prisons is worth about £1 billion, and it needs to be tackled. But it's not about evanescent ministers who come and go and secretaries of state and prison ministers. It's about leadership, management and culture of the prison and probation service itself.
I mean, as you say, the scale of this problem is quite extraordinary. The Chief Inspector of Prisons recently said he was in a prison, but there were more people under the influence of drugs than sober. And in another jail where a fifth of prisoners said they developed a drug habit only once they're inside prison. So why isn't there more focus on this, or what is going wrong here?
Well, I mean, the prison service has demonstrated in this case just don't seem to care. It works quite well for them in a sense, because if you have this level of serious organised crime, you're not going to get prison disturbances, because serious organised criminals are not going to allow for disturbances while a lot of money is being made. But yes, we have an excellent Chief Inspector of Prisons who's been talking about this for some time, about people going in clean and coming out addicted. Now, the very least we should do in prisons is do no harm, but the prison service, not just with drugs, but with employment, education and training, is doing a considerable amount of harm. And as I say, this is about leadership and management and culture. Everyone talks about overcrowding. Yes, we have an overcrowding problem, but one of the prisons that Charlie Taylor went in and observed a major drug problem was a prison called Wood Hill, which is a modern, purpose-built prison, well-resourced and not overcrowded. So this is not just about old Victorian crumbling city jails.
Let me bring in Mark Fairhurst. I mean, it is clear that drugs get into prisons in a variety of ways, and no one suggests that there are huge numbers of prison officers involved. But there are prison officers involved, and that is a part of the problem, isn't it?
Well, it's not for me to deny that there are corrupt staff. There are corrupt staff in every public sector service, including the police. Ourselves are no exemption, but we are doing a lot to tackle that. And what I will say is that the majority of staff are hardworking, decent, honest people. We don't want to work with corrupt staff. We want them rooted out, kicked out, prosecuted and incarcerated for their crimes.
But I mean, are they part of what people are saying is a serious organised crime network operating within the jails? You heard Julie say a prison officer came to her house to deliver drugs to her son.
That is really concerning, but we can only act if we've got the intelligence. So we need intelligence from prisoners' families. We have regional anti-corruption teams who work in conjunction with the police. But we can do more. There are measures in place, including security at the gate. But we can do more. We need to be more robust with lockdown searches, with target searches. Unfortunately, governors in prisons these days are more concerned with regime instead of safety.
I mean, you say that not a lot of officers are involved, but figures show the number of prison officers being investigated in relation to the supply of drugs in prison has gone up significantly in the past 3 years. So this is a problem that's getting worse. Do you acknowledge that?
It is a problem that's more highlighted now because we have better procedures in place and regional teams in place to look into this and gather intelligence and act.
I mean, John Podmore, prisoners we spoke to were very, very clear that there is a lot of money to be made. The government says it has put up pay to help the recruitment drive so there are more prison officers. They say they're spending £100 million to improve security to stop drugs getting in. Why does it not appear to be working?
Well, we have a real problem at the moment about the vulnerability of staff, and it's absolutely right that the majority of prison officers are hardworking and dedicated. Now, if you were to say that in any one cohort of prison officers, there were, say, 100 who were corrupt. Now, in my experience, the vast majority of those are not criminally, there by criminal intent, they're not malicious, they're not malign, but they have been conditioned, manipulated, threatened. We're talking now about honey traps. Staff are very, very vulnerable, and dealing with corruption properly. And I'm sorry, the prison service is not dealing with corruption properly. It trots out these technical measures. This is a people business. It's not just about having scanners at the gate. It's about leadership. It's management. It's training. And some prisons now do pay a good salary, but prison officers need to be led and they need to be protected. And in order to protect them, there needs to be a much greater focus on the role of serious organised crime in prisons.
I mean, it's a culture problem. That is about your people, isn't it?
It is a leadership issue because when they're obsessed with unlocking prisons with absolutely nothing to do for the sake of unlock to look good in front of a increasingly out of touch chief inspector, then that has a knock-on effect. What I'm saying is we need to get back to basics. Don't forget that the prison service has been subject to over £900 million worth of cuts from this government. They disbanded dog sections in local prisons like Wandsworth, which would have prevented throwovers. It would have had sniffer dogs at the gate to go through staff and prisoners. They disbanded those dog sections. They haven't invested enough in training on how to recognise how you get conditioned as a new member of staff. So there are more robust procedures that we can incur in our prisons to prevent all this. It does need to be tackled, but it needs to be tackled to the front line robustly with support from senior leaders.
Mark Fairhurst and John Podmore, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to end it there. Thank you
Well,
very much for talking to us this evening.
like I say, that's done, and hopefully we can put more things in our light and do some more videos, but there's only so much room on the phone, as we all know. I don't know if I'll be able to get this video in, the NHS stuff. I may do, I don't know. But like I say, I'm going to have a look. So much room is on my phone. 18% battery, it may get through. Let's have a look. It may work.
Your reaction to this survey?
NHS.
I would like you to run a survey between sickness and absence between self-employed people, or one man and employed people who don't get sick pay, who just have to talk to and get it sorted, to those who are feather-bedded with sick pay.
Do you think this is an example of feather bedding? Do you that it's just too easy to go off on the sick?
I've been speaking to people who say, "Oh, I've had all the holidays this year, but hang on, I've still got 6 weeks sick pay to come."
Hey? Who are they?
Teachers.
Teachers? No.
Yeah.
No. Tom.
I'll give you an example, shall I? I'll give you an example.
Give me an example, sir.
I've been 5 years in the company. The chairman was that lad, brilliant lad. He was the officer of Marines on the Belfast. And he couldn't understand why people in the office got sick pay and the people on the factory floor didn't. So he decided that he would pay people on the factory floor sick pay. After 2 months, sickness on the factory floor quadrupled. He had to stop the scheme. These people in these jobs are feather-bedded. They've got everything from, well, unending employment, not just terms of contract. They've got union representation. They've got sick pay. They've got holiday pay. So many self-employed people haven't got that.
No, I know. Tom, believe me, I know. If I don't turn up to work, I don't get paid. I don't get any holiday entitlement. I don't get any sick pay entitlement. I don't get any pension entitlement. But I take the risk.
So when you sit back and you see people just swanning off because
Well, I have to know that they're just swanning off first.
Well, who's going to say they're not? I say they are.
Well, on what evidence?
On what evidence? Human nature.
So you're judging all of them on the basis of your cynicism, your rampant cynicism that comes out of every pore of your being, Tom.
Well, I have an opinion. You may not agree with it,
But it's got to be backed up by something, sir. You can't just come on and go, they're all on the take, because I reckon.
Run the survey and look at the numbers of people who go sick, who are feather-bedded, to people who go sick, who are self-employed, who are not feather-bedded.
Absolute rubbish. Yes, there are people that do that sort of thing in the other sort of workplaces. But you can't fault hospital workers. I don't believe it. They would be off sick because they are genuinely sick or stressed. If I worked in that situation, I wouldn't work in it.
Well, neither would I, Penny. I agree with you. It's too much like hard work and very, very important. And
well, no, not the hard work. It's the stress of it and trying to deal with people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I wouldn't do it. I take my hat off to anyone who does it, to be honest, because there are far easier ways to earn a living in much less stressful fashion than doing that. So you're motivated by something that I'm not motivated by, and that probably speaks to a little bit about me, to be honest. My wife, I think, works as a paramedic. Is that right, sir?
Yeah, she started out as a 999 call handler about 10 years ago, then became an ECA, and now is a paramedic.
And what's that been like for her?
Beyond stressful. I want to speak firstly, before we get into this, directly to anyone, and I quote, who thinks the NHS is swanning off. She doesn't get any working pattern whatsoever, no annual leave, and at the moment is looking to drop down to part-time. And then when I asked the boss about this today, was replied with, well, it's not going to stop the stress, but it will lessen it. After this morning being abused by a patient who was threatening to punch her, kill her, and gouge her eyes out. And I know that before you were speaking about management, I think the problem is you get people who want to apply for management roles that come up. They say, oh, we're going to introduce this whole new system. And so they get the job because the system sounds great. It gets found out. The new system that they were going to implement doesn't work. And then they go back to the old system again. And this person is then in that middle management role. And my other half has said she's seen that about 3 or 4 times happen in a cycle. But I don't want this to turn into a NHS bashing. So I also think we all need to look at ourselves a bit. Me, you, everybody. I think there's a lack of self-help out there.
Oh, you mean people are calling the ambulance too frequently for the wrong things?
Yeah, 100%. My wife got out because of a headache before.
Do you know, Dave, it's the only example I've got is when I was, as a reporter, I was stationed with a paramedic crew for a day, whizzing around London in the ambulance with them. Literally the first call we got was to, and I'll never forget this, a 23-year-old man who had chipped his tooth, and they put it on blue lights for 5 minutes.
I'm not surprised.
Mad.
I'm not surprised. I think there's a sense of entitlement by people. I think sometimes that,
ambulance for chipping your teeth. Wow.
Well, I pay my taxes. You should be listening to me. It's like, well, why is he asking them for a pay rise?
Crazy.
And the idea of having to go out to get abused by someone who doesn't need an ambulance in the first place when the need is so great elsewhere must be incredibly frustrating for it.
The world's gone mad, in my opinion. But like I say, my phone's going to die in low battery in a minute, so I'm going to have to, at some point, put the phone onto charge. Then I can do more videos, of course. So I've done quite a few videos, I think, today. Spoke about a few things, obviously, but there's going to be room that's going to run out. Need to find out more bloody adverts again, as you can see. There is adverts on the TV. Hold on. Madness. I may have room to put another video in if I'm lucky.
This is the moment Remy Gordon was arrested by
see the
police
phone is
just
on low
2 days
battery.
after murdering 23-year-old Cody.
I may have to put it in charge quickly, because it won't last that long if I don't. Pardon me. I've been burping with them pop noodles. See. And I get the phone charger and film this video. You can see phone charger. I don't want the phone dying on me halfway through a video, because that would be annoying. That would be irritating, wouldn't it? There you go, plugged it in that.
This is the moment Remy Gordon was arrested by police just 2 days after murdering 23-year-old Cody Fisher in a nightclub in Birmingham. Fisher was a talented footballer, having played for Stratford Town and Bromsgrove Sporting, and was enjoying a night out on Boxing Day in 2022
GBN News.
when he was fatally stabbed in the chest. His murderers Remy Gordon and Cammy Carpenter killed Cody in a pre-planned act of revenge on the dance floor of the Crane nightclub in Digbeth, Birmingham. 2 days before his death, Cody Fisher was out with friends on Christmas Eve in a different nightclub when he accidentally bumped into Gordon's back. This CCTV footage shows the two in conversation. Fisher believed he'd done nothing wrong, but was threatened with violence. After the confrontation, Remy Gordon found a picture of Cody online and asked his friends to help identify him. Seen here messaging a group chat only 45 minutes after the initial incident, Gordon says he's due to shank him up. Cody's simple mistake would turn out to be the catalyst for his murder. Fast forward to Boxing Day, and Cody Fisher can be seen in this footage arriving at the Crane nightclub. A few hours later, his murderers Remy Gordon and Cammy Carpenter turn up and smuggle a weapon through security. Gordon had found out from friends in the hours before Cody was going to be there. Just before midnight, CCTV shows violence breaking out. It's at this moment Fisher is fatally stabbed in the chest, with the knife penetrating a valve in his heart. He's later pronounced